But let's move on to the safeties slash cornerback position, the defensive backs, as it would be more commonly said. Um, Last week we talked about C.J. Henderson on the Carolina Panthers getting the snaps, which he did, but he only had 4 solo tackles, so kind of a decent floor day, which we mentioned, but didn't get the pass defense or anything else to boost it. And we mentioned Rayshawn Jenkins, who has dropped in way too many leagues. He has 7 tackles, 5 of which were solo, and he forced a fumble. So he had a nice game. That's Rayshawn Jenkins of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this week we have unfortunate name. This name, listen, good for him. He's now found himself in this role, and that's DeAndre Houston Carson. Now, you're 100% excused for not knowing who that is, because last week you probably didn't need to. This is the Bears safety, and he was thrusted into a starting role when Eddie Jackson left the game with an injury, which we've since learned will probably sideline him for the next few weeks, likely the season, which, for a veteran on a losing Bears team, for someone who's done amazing things to bounce back to form in terms of Eddie Jackson this year, heartbreaking because he has been unbelievably good. But we got to move on. The next man up is DeAndre Houston Carson, and he immediately performed 6 tackles, which was, 6 tackles filling in halfway through the game. Pretty nice. And 9 tackles. 6 were solo, and a tackle for a loss. So he gets Green Bay coming up. That's a top 10 matchup. Jaquan Brisker is also dealing with some injury right now. He missed this past week. They need somebody to step up. Right now, that's probably going to be DeAndre Houston Carson. And 9 tackles filling in halfway through the game. He's probably going to be someone that won't be as hot a name on the waiver because people just don't know. But if you're watching this show, if you're listening to this show, you do know. So I do think he's going to have a very good week this coming up.
Yeah. I was kind of taking a look at him as well. And again, it's just kind of one of those sneaky picks that a lot of people probably don't know about. And Jaquan Brisker, with his injury, he was, he had a prominent role himself. And it's good to see replacement for once coming in and producing some sort of similar numbers. So good matchup going next week. There ought to be a lot of offense. Hopefully it will be a little bit tastier if Aaron Rodgers decides to play this week. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. It seems like that's pretty promising. So love that pick for sure. Next one we got on this list is Michael Davis, Los Angeles Chargers cornerback. He's had a pretty strong year overall, but over this last week, he's coming off his best game against the Cardinals, where he had 6 tackles, 5.
Froze again. Your screen's been frozen up. Oh, there we go. So every time I make sure that you're still with us, you come back. Keep going. You're on a roll.
No, it's all good. In addition to his 5 solo tackles, he had a tackle for a loss, 2 passes deflected, and even a sack. Again, he's another one that's got a good matchup this week against the Raiders. And as far as the rest of the season goes, he's got a pretty good schedule coming up. So we should see a pretty nice tackle floor and pretty reliable numbers moving forward. So definitely somebody get on your roster and get ahead of the game.
Yep, completely agree. And I really think he's been, performing fairly well in terms of IDP purposes for the last month, especially, since JC Jackson has gone down too. It's kind of thrust him into a must-play role. So we got a couple honorable mentions as well for defensive backs because we typically keep it limited, but there's a few that we like. Reed Blankenship is one of them, for me at least. That's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's replacement. I don't know how serious the injury is for Gardner-Johnson, but if he misses time, Reed Blankenship was the guy. He stepped in immediately, got an interception, got 6 tackles. So he could be a sneaky play if Gardner-Johnson does miss this week or beyond that. Jerry Jacobs of the Detroit Lions has been super solid the last few weeks. He's racked up a solid tackle floor, as well as grabbing a pass defense more weeks than not. And Cam Taylor-Britt, I know you threw down there, Axton, if you want to say a quick bit on him.
Yeah, I was just saying that since Chidobe Awuzie went down before the Bengals bye, I think a lot of us thought Dax Hill was going to be the one to take in that role, but it's been Cam Taylor-Britt getting a large share of the snaps. I think he was seeing something like.
Hoping he's coming back.
Are we back?
Oh. Well, all right. Well,
Dude.
yeah, Cam Taylor-Britt's getting that role. I think that's kind of the gist of it.
Yep.
It's not getting to Dax Hill. It's not going to anyone else. But oh, and there's Will Power coming in, super clutch. Lacerated kidney for Gardner Johnson, which terrible. That's a very painful injury. Hope he's going to be okay. But that will most likely be multiple weeks. And given the way the Eagles shape up, they're probably looking at the playoffs for him. So that would shape up Reed Blankenship to be a very solid play the rest of the week with the same type of tackle floor we saw with Gardner Johnson, albeit not with the interceptions. Like, listen, that he got his interception this week, but Gardner Johnson was getting one a week. That's just because he's that great of a player. I'm not sure Blankenship is exactly that. He's a very unknown guy at this point. So, but still someone I'm very interested in because the snaps will be there and it was a prominent role.